Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Kemi, and I'm here to talk about Beyond the Gates Season 2, Episode 40. Before we begin, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications so you'll know whenever I post. All right, I'm not even going to hold y'all. This episode was to me, the only scenes that I really too much cared about was the Anita and Vernon scenes, but we still don't get into it. All right, so we start the episode off with um, Bill. He is giving Haley, it's their anniversary or whatever. So he's giving her money because the first anniversary is paper or whatever. So he gives her a wad of cash or whatever. They talk about, he talks about how he wanted to spend their first anniversary in the place where they got married or whatever. Danny comes in, she goes over, she makes a crack about Bill having a stroke in their first anniversary. She can't wait to see what's gonna happen in the next one. Andre comes over and he's just like, okay, let's go. Haley was like, yeah, you should take your wife. Da 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 da. Danny goes into her purse to get them a gift. She pulls out a piece of tissue and she's just like, here is to, because it's paper or whatever. So, she gave him tissue because she said it's as disposable as their marriage. They walk away. Andre was just like, you like, girl, you doing the most, and he was just like, yeah, you doing the most. You enjoyed it too much, and she was just like, no, I know that you like it when he squirms or whatever. So Bill and Haley, they decide to leave because he wants her to, because since he gave her money, she has to spend the money on that day. So he takes her to where did he take her? I forgot where he took her that fast. Oh, he takes her to the casino. So we had seen what's this man's name? See, that just showed you. I'm sorry. So he sees we see Joey and Randy, they were talking, and um Joey is talking about, you didn't do your job by finding the guy who hurt Haley. Randy is just like, yeah, but now that we know where he is, now that I know who he is, it's going to be easier to find him or whatever. And Joey's just like, yeah, you do that. And it's just like, so you want him to look for a man that you told to disappear, to go and disappear. So it's like you are low key setting this man up for failure. But then again, okay. So they talk about that. Um, oh yeah, Randy was just like, he skipped town, something like that. Joey's just like, you probably you're probably happy that he skipped town because that'll, it'll be good for, Haley or whatever. So Bill and Haley show up because Bill wants her to spend the money gambling or whatever. And so Joey calls the dealer. He calls Randy to be the dealer or whatever. And he comes in, he's, dealing the cards. I'm so sorry. I know I'm just so lackluster because this episode was just to me. So Bill is talking to him about, being a good Samaritan, and he knows that most people don't really be good Samaritans um because of things that can happen. He's a lawyer and he sees all this other stuff or whatever. He makes a remark about Haley and Sammy, because that's what he thinks his name is, being real chummy the other day or whatever. So Haley wins again. She goes up and she gets a drink from Joey, and Joey, she's talking about, I didn't think that you would serve drinks here or whatever. And he was just like, I like to be behind a bar or whatever because I can see everything or whatever. We see Danny and Andre. They're at the club or whatever. They're doing their dinner or whatever, and Danny was telling him that this is kind of like their anniversary because they first slept together the day before the wedding or whatever. So whatever. I was annoyed because I'm just like, I still like them as a couple. I just hate that she keeps bringing up Bill because it's just like, leave that man where he at. Leave him with that scammer. But whatever. She comes into the club and she's like, she goes to the bar and she wants a drink. And then the bartender was just like, oh, you're going to join your parents. She goes and sits with Danny and Andre. She explained what's going on with her and Kat. They give advice or whatever. Andre gives her a different perspective so she can see things from a different view or whatever. She thanks them for their advice or whatever. She leaves. Danny thanks him, and she's just like thanks him for being there for Chelsea, and Chelsea wouldn't have got this type of conversation with Hayley and Bill or whatever. We see Naomi. She's at Uptown, and she is looking at her burner phone, and she's about to text Jacob, but she stops. And Kat, because Kat comes over, so um, Kat tells her about the fight with Chelsea. Uh, she talks about how she hates when her and her best friend fight, and Naomi is just like, she says, same here. She has a flashback to her and Ashley fighting or whatever. And in this scene, we then go and see Ashley is having the same flashback, but I'll come back to them. So uh Naomi wants to know why she rushing, like, oh no, she wants to know why they argued. So Kat tells them. Then she's asking Kat like, what's the rush? Why are you, why do you want to move? Kat's like, she wanted to move in with Tomas, but um he's not ready or whatever. And yeah, no, sorry, she was just like, she wanted to move in with Tomas, and then but that's a no. And Naomi was just like, oh, because he's not as serious. And she was just like, no, he's ready. He was ready before, but I wasn't. And Naomi, sorry, she was just like, so are you ready now? And Kat was just like, she was just like, yeah. Naomi was just like, and she was just like, yeah, I'm not. So then she thinks that Kat tells her that she thinks that she and Tomas should be further along since they've been together longer than her and Chelsea and Madison or whatever. And Naomi was just like, so you trying to keep up with the Joneses, which is like, girl, why you want to keep up with the Joneses with Tomas? But whatever. Kat says she can't help but wonder why it's harder for her and Tomas than it's been for Chelsea and Madison. And Naomi says, well, maybe he isn't the one. And it's just like, that's exactly what it is. Because again, Kat, my love, you are trying to make this thing work with this man when deep down in your heart you can't trust him because of what he did with Eva. Not even just the fact that he slept with her, but he also was telling all y'all's personal business to her. So of course, you don't trust this man. So I don't know why you aren't listening to your instincts and just, why won't you let this man go? But I digress. So Kat says, she says, yeah, we discussed it. We're good. This is, he is the one. We discussed it, whatever. And Naomi was just like, she was just like, yeah, it sounds reasoned and rational. And Kat was just like, and not romantic. And it was just like, exactly. Y'all are a reasoned and rational couple, but there's no romance there. But yeah, okay. So um Naomi, let's see. Naomi is telling her, like, you may not like living alone. And she starts like saying, all this stuff about going to bed at, by yourself and da 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 and all this other stuff. And Kat is just like, oh, from the sounds of it, what it's like living alone right now. She was just like, everything okay with Jacob? And she's just like, yeah, he's away taking a test. And she's just like, oh, so he'll be back soon. She's just like, oh, she doesn't know because he's doing the training. Once he's done the training, then he has to take the test. And if he doesn't pass the test, then he has to stay and all this other stuff. So Kat was just like, okay. And she's just like, okay, well, what if I move in with you? And she'll just like to keep you company. And she'll just like, yeah, no. And she'll just like, you and Chelsea will work things out. So again, we had seen when Naomi was having her flashback of her argument with Ashley. Ashley had seen it, and Shanice comes up to her and she's asking her, "Are you ready for your rotation in the clinic? I mean, not the clinic, in the oncology, because that's where her next rotation is or whatever." And Ashley is just like, "Yeah, she's ready." All this other stuff. They talk about a couple of things, and then Ted comes up, and um, Shanice gets really, really excited, and Ted was just like, "Oh, I didn't think you was, that excited to see me." And then she runs to her aunt, which is Dr. Monica, who happens to be her mom, um, who's her mom's sister. So they're talking. She's like, talking to Ted and just like, oh, I didn't think you were real, da 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 da, all this other stuff. And then she wants to go and, she wants Ted to go to dinner with her so that she can get to know him better or whatever. Shanice is just like, oh, I can do it. And she was just like, no, 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 you got to work. Let me go and let me get to know your paramour or whatever. So he was just like, okay, let me move some things around, and I'll let me move some things around, and then we can go and meet or whatever. We see Vernon and Anita, and they're at the house. Vernon is looking at the comments from her interview, and Anita comes in worried, and she's just like, with this next round, because this is a harder round, because it's the tumor isn't shrinking the way that she thought it would. Sorry about that. So Anita's worried about this next round of chemo because the tumor isn't shrinking the way they want it to. So she has to go through this more aggressive form now. So she's worried that like they have to contend with the worst case scenario. And Vernon is just like, no, we don't have to go there. And she's just like, no, we have to think about, what's next if she doesn't win this battle. And she's not sure she can handle it. And he tells her, it's okay to be nervous. He says even if she does experience the worst case, they will accept it, but it's not going to stop them from fighting or her fighting spirit. He tells her that he's going to be by her side every step of the way, and nothing and no one is going to mess with his wife. So she goes to the hospital. When she goes to the hospital, she runs into Dr. Monica, and Dr. Monica, she introduces herself to them. She tells them, she's seen the interview and she has been looking for ways to educate Black women on how the Big C affects our community. And Anita's interview has reached more people. She said Anita's interview has reached more people in her lifetime than she could ever reach in her lifetime. And so she tells her, if you ever need anything, how to, to spread the word, or even if you have questions about your treatment, let me know. Because again, Dr. Monica is the top oncologist. She's the head of the oncology department at MD Anderson in Houston. Anita is very like, she's just like, I'll take you up on it. So she takes her card. And fun fact, the lady who plays Dr. Monica played Tamara Tooney, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, she played Tamara Tooney's sister on As the World Turns. So this is like a little, fun meetup again or whatever. So um, we see Ted. He is with Monica, and they are at the coffee shop, and they're talking about, Shanice and if he's good enough for Shanice. And she asked him about why he picked plastic surgery, and was it for the money? And, he tells her why he picked it. She gives him another dig, and she's just like, it's she talks about his ink not being dry on his divorce. And it's gonna get messy because they all work at the same place, which, yes, it is. It already is. But they all work at the same place, and he's just like, Shanice is not one um to mess with at the job. With her tenure and everything, they'd let him go before they let Shanice go. So she's happy. She says, he doesn't back down. And she was just like, okay, you got this, but be forewarned from her brothers and her sisters or whatever. So he comes back to the hospital, and Shanice was worried about it. And she tells him, uh, she tells him, I mean, he tells her that everything went well and she's happy, whatever. So we see Ashley. She comes into Anita's room because again, she's doing her, um, she's, this is her, I don't, what do you call it? She's working the oncology department this round or whatever. So she's Anita's person, and she asked Anita, if you don't feel comfortable with me, let me know. I'll get somebody else. Anita's just like, no, I'm, I want, I like, I would rather see someone that I know be my person, be the nurse that helps me or whatever. So she tells her what this round is gonna entail, and she explains what the code cap is. If I'm not mistaken, that's what she's wearing in this picture. So it's like it's supposed to like help with keeping her cool, and then also can stop the um, hair loss, or try to help with the hair loss or whatever. So she asks where Vernon is. Vernon went to go get her some tea. So Anita's in the room by herself at first, and she's just like, shivering a little bit or whatever, and she's looking worried. And then Vernon comes in, and he's like, he's there for his woman. He's giving her encouragement, and then he starts to put lotion on her hands. And yeah, that was it. But yeah, so that was the episode. Again, it wasn't a lot in this. I mean, yeah, it wasn't a lot in this episode. Again, the only things that really just like I was like really focused on that I really really liked was all of the Anita and Vernon scenes. Um, but yeah, that was the episode. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications so you'll know whenever I post. Get down in the comments, tell me what you thought about this episode, and I will see you guys in the next one.